What's the most ridiculous thing a coworker accused you of? I was in my office when Nurse Grace came to tell me that the new nurse saw my dad and I talking and hugging some days ago and assumed something was going on between us. But the thing is, my dad and I hardly ever talk at work. I'm a social worker, and my dad is a day shift ER charge nurse. But that day, I was in the ER trying to find placement for an elderly patient when I bumped into him. We don't live together, but I was scheduled to visit home for a couple of days. So when I saw him, we got talking, and he said he'd pick me up later that day. I then teased that I was going to order a large steak since he was paying. We laughed about it, but then I noticed this new nurse staring at us weirdly. I didn't think much about it, so I just hugged him and left. But when this older nurse I chatted with often came to tell me that the same nurse was spreading rumors that my dad and I were having an affair, I was shocked. Why would she think that? Everyone knew we were father and daughter. I was going to just talk to her about it, but later that day, when I passed by a closed door, I overheard a nurse telling another something about a social worker sleeping her way up with an ER charge nurse just to get ahead. I knew she was referring to me, but she didn't stop there. She went on to say she would find her way to do the same, just so she could get a solid position in the hospital or something like that. I didn't really recognize the voice, so I waited around the corner to see who it was. When they got out, I saw it was the same nurse. The fact that she said such disgusting things about my dad and I decided I wouldn't confront her anymore. The next day, I went to HR and told them everything. The nurse was called in, and so was my dad. When my dad came in, I could tell he didn't know what was going on, but he didn't ask any questions either, just took a seat beside me. The HR lady then told them why we were all there and asked the nurse to explain herself. And that's when she began to say how terrible she thought it was that we would so blatantly have an affair when my dad was obviously married, and that she was shocked because she thought my dad was a nice guy. When she was done, the HR lady just sighed and asked my dad and I to step out. By the next morning, word had spread somehow, and all the workers were talking about was how shameless the new nurse was for what she did. My office door was open that day, and I saw her pass by on her way to HR's, but that was the last time I ever saw her.